So this pretty much must have covered R in all the possible positions and neutral Brazilian Portuguese. Now let's get more complicated and look at the phonological variation across varieties of Portuguese. What I'm going to do now, I'm only going to talk about the phonological environments in which that variety, that dialect of Portuguese is different from neutral São Paulo Portuguese. But before we move there, I should introduce you to the different varieties of Portuguese that I'm going to cover. There's São Paulo, capital city, neutral Brazilian Portuguese. So we already covered this. Then another major variety, which is called Carioca, is a variety spoken in Rio de Janeiro or Rio de Janeiro and northern Brazil. So that's the second variety. Then we have Caipira, which is something like hillbilly English. You can call it hillbilly Portuguese. So basically this is spoken in Brazil or Brasil, São Paulo interior. Now there is a cowboy Portuguese, which is Gaúcho Portuguese. It's spoken in the south, in the three main states of Paraná, Santa Catarina, and Rio Grande do Sul. So this is also the variety that might be similar to the varieties spoken in Portugal, near borders with Spain. So cowboy Portuguese, hillbilly Portuguese, European Portuguese, or Portugal Portuguese. Now I'm going to look at the other four varieties in terms of how they differ from the one that we covered, which we call neutral Brazilian Portuguese. In Carioca, the Rio variety, if the single R appears in word finally or syllable final, it's pronounced ha, but it could be pronounced in a stronger way, approaching ha or he. So, for example,
amor, carne, firme, morte, verde.
So, although it was firme, it was more like ha, in morte, it's more like ha. So, there's like degrees of similarity to ha, and that's why I put all the three symbols there. So, it could be any of those, or something in between any of those. That's basically it. So, in Carioca Brazilian Portuguese, you will hear more ha than ha. Now, in the Caipira, in hillbilly Portuguese, the São Paulo city flap becomes the American R. R. It's like R.
Amor, calor, carne, morte, verde.
So which one is it? It's the voiced alveolar approximant, obviously. Carne. All the neutral flaps become alveolar approximants. Cowboy Portuguese, Gaúcho, or Northern Portugal, or Portugal near Spain. The double R, eje, and all the other R's are trilled.
Let's practice one more time. Por quê? Porta. Por favor.
This totally sounds like a Spanish R. And it totally makes sense because these regions are near Spanish-speaking countries. Maybe there are other reasons. I know that in these regions in Brazil, there were a lot of Italian immigrants. That could be Italian influence as well. And as I said, in Portugal, this happens near Spanish borders. Now, last but not least, I'm going to cover the uvular rhotic, which is actually a feature of European Portuguese. So in European Portuguese, when you have R word initially or you have double R intervocalically, any of these four consonants may be pronounced.
Região, rádio, rato, rua, resto, rolha.
These are the double R's. You will see that she's pronouncing the H version. She doesn't do the uvular.
And it's carro, serra, corre, arrogante,
So this was only the double R. So what is happening here? Word final, syllable final, intervocalic or in consonant cluster.
carta, caro, próxima, corpo, adoro,
We have more consonant clusters.
just trago, droga, cravo, rir, correr, correr,
So in hir, which in neutral Brazilian Portuguese would be pronounced as hir, you have the word initial R, which is pronounced ha or h, and then you have the word final R, which is both in neutral Brazilian and in Portugal Portuguese is flapped. So in that sense they're similar, but word initially they're not similar. Again, you have correr, which is similar word finally, but word medially for the double R is not similar. It would be ha, but here is h. Now I'm going to play examples of Portugal Portuguese in which it's pronounced like the voiced uvular fricative or a voiced uvular trill.
Rio,
You see here that we have, in the first instance, intervocalic, which is pronounced caro. In the second one, we have word initial, which is pronounced like uvular trill, rato. Intervocalically, it's flapped. Word initially, it is uvular. But here, even though it's intervocalic, when it's double R, it is uvular, carro. So that's the difference between caro and carro in Portugal Portuguese. Last but not least, there's this. I think this may apply to all varieties of Portuguese, and that's, if you remember, here I had the empty, the null, the nothing. So when does that happen? That happens word finally, especially in infinitives. Falar, vi, conhecer. So apparently a lot of speakers drop the R at the end. But even with that exception, if you have a word and then you don't pronounce the R, if that word is followed by a vowel, then it would be tapped or flapped. For example, the word ligar o computador, turn on the computer. So here you would say ligar, but if you want to say it in the sentence, if you speak at a normal pace, the R, because of O, will be pronounced and it will be flapped. Ligar o computador. This is something like liaison in French, or in linguistics they call it sandy. So these are the different ways, depending on the dialect and variety of Portuguese you speak. You can get a different pronunciation of R, which is word initial, for the word restaurant. So you should be able to tell me which sound he pronounced. So you can pause the video and then tell me which sound. This is practice for you.
restaurante,
This is voiceless uvular or voiceless velar fricative. Second one.
Restaurante.
This one is a voiced alveolar trill, like Spanish. Listen again.
Restaurante.
Restaurante. You see? Next one. This is from Brazil.
Restaurante.
Restaurante.
It's a voiceless glottal fricative.
Restaurante.
This is something between ha and ra. That's very interesting.
Restaurante.
So in Brazilian pronunciations, only in this instance, she's pronouncing it like voiceless uvular fricative or voiceless velar fricative. Listen.
Restaurante.
Restaurante. So almost all of them were ha except for that particular case. I don't know where she is from. So in Brazilian Portuguese, the R, the word initial R in restaurant, restaurante, is almost unanimously pronounced like voiceless glottal fricative. Now, as a learner of Portuguese, and I myself am a learner, So I'm going to flash these words and I'm going to give you maybe 1 or 2 seconds to pronounce them. Even if you know zero Portuguese, based on the rules that I already gave you, you can pick one variety of Portuguese and pronounce the word. So I'm going to flash the words and then I'm going to pronounce them myself. If you know Portuguese more than I do, feel free to comment on my pronunciation. I will go with neutral as well. So you have 2 seconds. The first word. Rio. Garrafa. Guerra. Correr. Carregar. Restaurante. Roda. Barato. Tarifa. Honrar. Israel. Cristo. Fábrica. 4 and then quarto. Trem. Carioca. Caro. Para. Barato. Preço. Praia. City. Xadrez. Prato. I'm sure there are a lot of Portuguese speakers here, and please correct me, comment, and if you have good videos that pronounce specifically R in different varieties of Portuguese, feel free to post the link in the comment.